What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And I just watched this Chito Ranas Compa Raidher interview on No Jumper, and it's like a vlog or something, posted like maybe 12 hours ago, and it was disturbing to say the least. Right? It essentially was like a commercial on how to be a dope fiend, right? And celebrating dope fiend culture. And I don't say that to be disrespectful towards either one of them, and I don't even say that to be disrespectful about addiction, right? I've experienced addiction. I'm an alcoholic. I grew up around addicts. Like I get that, and so I'm not trying to make fun of addiction, but I think there also needs to be a line where we don't celebrate active addiction. People got their own demons. They got their own traumas. They got their own struggles. I get it. And a lot of the stuff that's been very public that Chito's gone through and his brother dying and all sorts of stuff. Like I get all that. I've been through that. A lot of us from the neighborhood have, and there is a lot of residual pain from that, right? And self medication and all that. I get it. Um, I hope that he gets help, but this advertising of it, like where are the adults in the room? You know, and by adults, I don't just mean by age. I mean by maturity level, right? Where do we draw the line? Because rap music targets young people, right? It's been like that for decades, and sure you got these blogs and the podcasts and the shows and everything else, but it is young folks that spend money on music, especially on younger artists, right? Like Chito's a relatively new artist, and so his fan base is pretty much a younger fan base, and this is what we're doing, right? Like we're normalizing this culture where it's compa raiders like, hey man, I heard if you pop this and you pop that, it feels this way, and oh man, I'm on a limit. I can only have 8 in a 24-hour period, and all this other stuff, right? And man, when I was in court, when I was in the county, it's Chito Ranas talking, and I had to go to court. I was telling my celly while we were in the shower that, man, I don't think it's gonna go very well, and he's like, hey fool, just get loaded. That way you don't even remember when you come back. And I was like, man, that makes sense. So I went in the cell and I did 3 papers to the nose. And like, this shit is wild, Holmes. It is wild to hear two adults talking like this on a podcast and a platform that has a huge audience. Right? I've made clear before I'm not a fan of Adam 22. I'm not really a big fan of No Jumper. I watch it depending on who the artist is, right? Shout out bands for going down there. I seen that post too, and I'm gonna do a video about that, sometime this weekend or maybe Monday morning. But it this was just ugly, bro. And I'm watching it, and I've read through a bunch of the comments. Right, it was posted like maybe 10 hours ago, 12 hours ago, and I've read through a bunch of the comments, and there's a ton of comments of people disagreeing with what I'm saying right now, right? And saying, man, this is you in your element, compa, and man, we need more interviews like this, and compa and Chito, and we love this conversation, Chito. Like, yeah, that's right. This is natural. This is, in your element. This is just hanging out, two guys at the pad talking type shit, right? And okay, I get that. We have some folks around us maybe that party a little too hard, right? And I'm not advocating for any use, but it's one thing to play with your nose a little bit on a night out and have some drink with the fellas. Again, I'm not encouraging that. Uh, if that's all it was, though, I would not be making this video. That is not all that it was by far. And the video ends with, "Hey fool, let's do a bender." Okay, cool. Like get some powder. Like first of all, you have a dude that's on parole. You have a dude that's been to the joint a couple times, right? Who is having a very blunt conversation, and he's clearly intoxicated, right? So it's not as if, oh, we're just talking about all this stuff for the clout, but really, if you were to test that dude, Jamal is gonna come back clean. No chance, right? And he's talking about having stuff in his pocket. He literally gets on the phone when Gompa's talking about, hey man, can you get the bolsito over here? And then they're saying no real man turns down a bender, right? You don't turn down a fade, and you don't turn down a bender. No, I'm here to correct the record. turn down benders, Holmes. Like when you're grown, when you have responsibilities, when you have a job, when you have kids, when you care about your freedom and your health, even just a little bit, turn down benders. There's a lot of people doing time because they didn't turn down a bender, right? And I'm not advocating for any harm. I'm not advocating for any of that shit. I may not be the biggest fan of Chito Ranas' music. There's a lot of young rappers that I'm not a big fan of. It's just not my style. But clearly he has a following. Clearly he does have fans. Clearly he's had some level of success, and he has the potential to have a higher level of success. And it appears that, and I've never been rich and famous, right? Um, but hearing from other folks and over time, it appears he's got a bunch of yes men around him. People that maybe because he's the one with the bag, they're not gonna tell him no, right? Or people who think that all this shit is fine and all this shit is cool. I don't know, um, but I'm concerned that like this is Kurt Cobain type vibes, right? And for you guys that remember, but there's a long history of artists, musicians in different genres who just got carried away with getting loaded and the quote unquote rock star lifestyle, now the rapper lifestyle, and their lives were ended tragically soon, because of it. And I don't want to see that to happen to anybody. I don't care who you are or what you're about or where you're from. I don't want to see that, and I'm sure his fans don't either, obviously. But that's where this is headed. And when you promote this and you encourage this and you don't call it out, then don't be surprised when a year from now, oh man, I can't believe it. I don't know how this happened. You're watching how it happens right in front of you, right? Which we haven't always had the luxury, for lack of a better term, of with artists in the past. But with social media and everything else. Plus, like I said, the dude is on parole, right? And granted, it wasn't alive, so I guess that makes it a little bit better. I don't know when it was recorded. Um, but you're bragging, and he's talking about, people say, oh, Chito's going to crash out. You're doing too much. He's like, man, that's only 10 days. I ain't going to go back to prison over years over this. I ain't tripping. I'll go do 10 days. Listen, for one, um, look what happened to Money Sign Sway. Now, he had more than 10 days, but he didn't have a long stretch. He didn't have a long stretch, and he didn't go to a high security facility, and he didn't make it home. And Chito referenced Money Sign Suede and his admiration for him, and he's the king and everything else, which is like a whole other kind of odd dynamic in terms of like Southsiders and residents and artists and folks getting whacked. But that's a separate conversation. Um, but he didn't have long, right? He just caught a little BS charge, and he didn't make it out. 10 days can be the rest of your life in jail. You never know what's going to happen when you get locked up for 10 days. And you're rich, bro. You're an artist. You have all of these opportunities. Why would you want to give up even a day to go sit in jail? Like, I know to some people kind of it sounds cool. Oh, he's standing on business and this. Like this idea of what standing on business in has gotten very perverted. It's gotten very twisted. And no, standing on business is handling your business, and this is not that. Even if you do have issues and you do have struggles, that's fine. But folks got to stop putting therapy sessions on these big platforms, right? Because it's one thing to talk about your challenges. I'm gonna, bring up Lucky from Hoodstocks. Lucky, I think, he had a great conversation on his podcast, right? And kind of in reaction to the whole lefty fiasco. Um, and he acknowledged like, hey man, I'm an extremist. I go 0 to 100, and my family has a temper, and we're very much in control. And then when we're out of control, we're very much out of control. And I have an addictive personality. I get addicted to stuff. I go overboard. I overconsume. But he wasn't saying it to celebrate it, right? He was acknowledging it. Hey, look, it is what it is, and he wasn't celebrating it. He was just stating the reality of his world and his coming up and his challenges, and how sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's a curse. And On one hand, it's what people respect because you're real and you're raw and you're all this other stuff. But there's also a line, and it can get hard to find that line sometimes. And I felt like the conversation Lucky had with his viewers on Hood Stocks, even though in the live chat is a bunch of people talking all kinds of reckless stuff, right? Of course, the online you're gonna have all kinds of anybody can say anything, right? On anonymous profiles and all this other stuff. And there are a lot of people who just want the drama and they want all this shit. But everybody involved in all these different channels and all these different conversations, like they're all real people. They're not characters, even though some of them act like it. Underneath that, there are real legit folks, and uh, I really got a lot of respect for how Lucky handled that situation and how he handled the situation most recently. His podcast, right? I think it was like yesterday, day before. I don't know. Um, but a lot of respect for how he had that conversation, and he talked about addiction, and he talked about all this other stuff, and it was in an authentic way, in a therapeutic kind of way, but not in a celebrate, ha ha, life is a game, right? Not in a, hey man, have you ever tried this? No, you got to go over here and try this. Man, I did this. It was the best. And then all this catching STDs and being with women. And it's just a weird fucking conversation. Didn't even really know that you're listening to a rapper, right? Or potentially two rappers. Like, I don't even know what category Compa Raidher falls in anymore. The dude looks on one every time I see him on camera. And, and it's just, you wouldn't even know that they're artists, right? There's a little talk of Swifty Blue and that stuff, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of podcasts that are gonna pick up on that part of the conversation. Um, they're now Chito and Lefty are following each other, and so there was some stuff there, and I'm sure a bunch of podcasts will pick up on that. So I'm not gonna get into those things because I don't care that much about that level of detail. Um, but it was just sad, man. I don't know. You guys let me know. Like I said in the comments of the video, you would think that I'm some old, outdated, uptight guy. I don't know. But it's just not a good look. And for those being critical, or for those that are gonna want to jump and say, "Oh, look at Rascals," it's because it's the South Side, this and that. That shit don't matter to me, Holmes. That don't matter to me, right? Um, like I said, I respect folks and their art and their thing, whether it's mine or not. It don't matter. And when the whole hyphy movement came out, and when Mac Dre 2.0, came out, not the Too Hard for Your Radio Mac Dre, like back when he was in Juvenile Hall, but the other version of the partying and the lean bottles and the popping pills and the playing with you. And I was very critical of that. I wasn't on YouTube, but I was very critical of that culture, right? Of that promotion. And I also watched what it did to a young generation of people, bro. You got dudes catting off, doing way out shit. And a big factor in that is the drugs, is the lean, is all this stuff. Like it, we're making addiction look cool, and not that we should make addicts look horrible, right? Because addiction is an issue, and again, I empathize with those that struggle with it, right? I've had my own, uh, but celebrate and making it look like cool is the thing to do. It's the thing to aspire to, like. Yeah, for one day I'm gonna have all those chains on my neck, and I'm gonna have somebody that holds all my perks for me, and I'm gonna be able to hop on the phone, and I'm never gonna give up the cup either. Like, this is not healthy. It's not healthy. It's not good for the community. And I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just yelling into the wind. You guys let me know in the comments. Help others move in excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it. And like, for real, tap in and let me know if is this making any sense? Right? It is. Am I just out of touch? Is it kind of like, oh well, it's too late? Just let these young people do what they're gonna do. You guys let me know, man. Take care.